Salutations, good evening, Om Shanti, everybody. My name is Kaderevalin, and I'm going to help guide the conversation. This event has been organized by the Brahmakumari Spiritual University and has been established from 1937. We have almost 8,500 centers in 100 countries. So we virtually have a footprint in the entire world. Our topic for tonight is soft powers as advertised. It's men-to-men, a conversation. And in spirituality, we do not have any gender preferences. But purely just for this conversation, we've called it men-to-men, just to clear that, Well, soft powers as our subject for tonight is the ability to influence and the soul's innate qualities. Now, the various speakers, we have 4 panelists that is going to be talking to what soft powers are. And in no particular order that I'm going to just mention them in broad definitions to you, what's the virtues and the powers. We're going to be looking at probably about 7 virtues, if that's going to be possible. And they are in no order, as I said: peace, love, happiness, knowledge, power, purity, and bliss. And also we're going to be looking to cover the 8 powers that we talk in the spirituality arena when we address things. These are really powerful powers if one can embrace them. But as I said, the panelists will try and pick up, and through their talks to us is going to be able to cover some of them, and we will then have an opportunity to ask some questions. So the 8 powers also, in no particular order, they are the power to withdraw, to pack up, to tolerate, to accommodate and adjust, discern, judge, face, and to cooperate. Now, there's also another definition of soft powers when we refer to business, when we talk about economic leadership and culture and so on, but we purely want to focus more on the spirituality side of these virtues and powers. And all I can say that thank you for taking time to join us and witness this conversation by the various speakers. We're definitely going to have a wonderful evening together, expanding our knowledge regarding soft powers. So time is precious for us, so we're going to want to not rush things, but our panelists is going to have an allotted few minutes each one to introduce themselves. So with no time to waste, I would like to call on our first speaker, who is, or I should just introduce the panelists and then introduce them as they take to develop, to present their topics and so on. So the first speaker that we're going to have is Keshlin. The other panelist is Bruce Bartholomew, Michael Barton, and John Ndiritu. So if the first speaker is Keshlin, but let me just give you a little bit of a background about him. He's 24 years old, and he's been in spiritual life for the past 19 years. And he's, a phenomenal soul, and he has indicated to me that he wants to actually improve himself in a better way. And at the same time, he also wants to share what he knows to the greater part of the world of what he's learned. And he believes that if he shares this with us, it could make a difference. So over to you, Keshlin.
Okay, thank you, Kaderevalin. Good evening to all my brothers out there. And I see we have some sisters amongst us, or unless that's just the names. But today I was given the opportunity to share my experience of 2020. Also, the use of spiritual or soft powers, as was indicated, I needed in order to move forward in the year. So last year for me was a very kind opportunity to do some self-introspection. I needed to go inwards and withdraw from the world around me. So for me, withdrawing is part of the 8 powers that we have. And it's also a soft power or spiritual power because it requires from me to take me, myself, and I and be together for once and have a conversation within myself. So last year required me to do a little bit of introspection, just like how a tortoise would go and withdraw himself into a shell if the outside world is unpredictable and troubling. In the same way, I had to withdraw and not being ignorant about what's going around in the world, but rather just less reactive to what is going on. So this was my goal for 2020, and my goal was to understand myself better. So having a goal for myself helped to move the time along quickly. 2020 was over quicker than we expected for most of us. For me, I had experience of being in a cocoon due to the lack of influence and the lack of outside influence and also isolation, which we all experienced, which provided me with the great opportunity to really do my introspection. And I think a lot of us may have experienced the same thing. We weren't actually given the time in previous years maybe to actually sit down and be with ourselves. So it provided a chance for a great metamorphosis as such and allowed for change to occur. So 2020 allowed for the time to change. And I think that's what I take from the year. And I think that with that energy of also being honest with myself in terms of my character and confronting certain things within my character, which led to another use of spiritual power or soft power, which is the power to face and confront certain defects in my character that I needed to put right. So the power to face was another power that I really needed to understand because it's difficult for some and what I found for myself to face the challenge, to face the problems or the character defects that I have. So the power to face and the power to withdraw came together and gave me, and obviously 2020 was the catalyst that gave me the opportunity to explore these 2 powers. And that's what I would be taking over for the year for this year 2021. Taking the same energy over to this year, I set new goals for myself that I should reach in terms of my character and breaking my identity of who I think I am. If my goal is to be a powerful being, not a forceful one, but a powerful one, then reforming my character is where I should start. I should start by imbibing good virtues and powers and making that my identity. So this is my goal for the year. Leading from the experience that I had in 2020, I didn't have much challenges, but seeing my character defects is where I felt I needed to start. And that's what I would be taking over for the year 2021. So I was very grateful for the time and isolation, 2 things that I needed the most to achieve the goals I've set for myself. And within setting those goals, I improved my mental state during the year. I think that is what soft powers is about, is knowing what our defects are and knowing how and what powers to use in order to correct those defects. Uh, we have these 8 powers, but sometimes we might find that we don't know where and how to use them. And I think having this conversation with yourself is where it begins. So last year gave me that opportunity to have that conversation with myself and understand where I need to rectify character defects within myself. So that's what I'll be taking over for this year. So I'm just passively pushing myself in the directions I need to be. And the conditions of last year were absolutely perfect for that. So that's my experience of 2020. And I hope it helps shed some light on what I experienced in the year.
Thank you, Keshlin. I mean, you've said a lot. And following you talked about the 8 powers and how this one sort of uses it and so on. It just leads me to ask you very quickly, I mean, is it through knowledge how we be able to use them, or is it through experiences? Can you quickly just give me a one-liner answer so we can move on?
Well, I think it's more of a combination of the two, because well, experience is also gained from knowledge, and knowledge can also be gained from experience. So when we're talking about the 8 powers, I mean, as I said, it's that through that careful introspection that you're only able to understand yourself and understand what powers you need to use. Your challenges in life may be different from mine. So in order for me to understand myself, I also have to understand my experiences and the knowledge that we've gained. So I think it's both equal. Knowledge and experience is as important to gaining power. So I think it's both knowledge and experience.
Thank you very much, Keshlin. That's really given us food for thought there. But yes, okay, so if we could just move on to our next speaker, who hails all the way from Durban. And I wonder how the weather's out there, but we're not going to talk about the weather. He's got lots more important things to share with us. Bruce Bartholomew has given me a brief description about himself, and he says he's a father like many of us. He's a husband, he's a family man. He's an ardent lover of the natural environment, and he's a student of life with experience and extensive experience in the school of entrepreneurial hard knocks. I think he'll be able to pick that up of his experiences of 2020. I think he would share all of that. He's also strongly identifies with the principles of the BK and the powers of meditation. So Bruce Bartholomew, it's over to you if you could just indulge us with your conversation.
Yeah, Kaderevalin, thank you very much, and good evening to everybody that's out there. I'm going to come to this from a slightly different angle, in that I've not been a practicing member. I'm not as yet, and was only recently introduced to the BKs, and that was only in 2018. We lost our family business that we'd had for over 25 years. But a certain Sister Usha was very instrumental in introducing me to meditation and the guiding principles. But sort of, losing a family business like you do, like we did, it's often these big cataclysmic events that happen in our lives, death, divorce, those sort of things, that are agents for real change, where we sort of reassess a lot of things, and that's exactly what happened to me. I went from an outward focused, external sort of materialistic being to really looking inward, and meditation and a lot of the sort of daily messages that come through from the BK teaching resonates strongly. And I think that 2020, for a lot of people, the COVID pandemic has been no different. For many people around the globe, losing jobs, losing income, losing loved ones has been extremely traumatic. And so to my mind, the most glaring realization of COVID 2020 was that, you know, we as a human race, as a society, have created a normal that is really no longer working. We could really say that the current system is broken. And you know, if each and every one of us stop for a minute, which in many ways COVID forced us to do, certainly in April with the lockdown, and some of us, and if you really took time to look outside of your narrow daily routine, you know, and you look around, you see that, I mean, it's scary to think that the richest 1% of the population owns over 44% of the world's wealth. We're drowning in our own waste. We're consuming toxic food and water. And there's a large impending ecological crisis that's in an advanced stage. So to my mind, the COVID in 2020 was a wake-up call to us to really pull our collective heads out of the sand and to look at making really necessary changes. And it really sort of gets me to the point of how us as human beings have got into this position. And that's really the summary of what I wanted to discuss, because as a collective, as a human race, a society, a community, or even a neighborhood and a family household, we all individuals have subscribed to, whether we knowingly have done it or unknowingly, the evolution of this current system. Whether it's capitalism or colonialism, whatever you want to call it, but certainly a system that has been driven by that external material and physical, that's really what it's about. And what's in it for me, really the ego, and often at the ego has been the driving force, and often at the exclusion of other people, animals, and the environment. So COVID in 2020 has shown us that we have to do things differently. And this is where I see, from a layman's point of view, soft power, or the collective conscious, the journey to awareness and action really comes when we turn inward. Because we have to accept that everything is interconnected. And there's a massive shift to that way of thinking. You know, the universe, the planet, the environment, the human race, even how our bodies work, how the planet works, everything is connected. So if we accept that, and that we all, every single individual is a part of the problem, because we've all created this, there's an equal opportunity for a solution. We have the power to undo what we've created. So the individual changes that are required are not massive. You know, I say that they're subtle. They start with your own individual consciousness and the need for change. And there is a big collective awakening to this. And, you know, so with the awakening, there becomes, and has an impact on the course. And through this awareness, we can see a shift in the psyche from sort of I, the ego, to moving to go to the. COVID has turned people to look from an out inward to their family units. At the end of the day, the only real truth is love. And to my mind, meditation and a real spiritual approach in itself provides the right platform for what I say is a soft touch way of living. You're not knocking over people on the rugby field. So in understanding the concept that we're just souls, and ultimately love is the only real value, changes the focus from an ego to humility and love. And in doing this, a higher self and a collective way of living that is based on trust. and we need to be the change we want to see. So that what I've taken out of 2020 and what I'm trying to impart for the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. We just had a bit of a problem. With the internet, and I just want to ask the viewers who have joined us, it's really beyond our control sometimes about the connections, but just please bear with us, and I'm sure it will be all okay. Bruce, yes, sorry to hear about your business in 2018. Yes, there's a lot of things you are saying, and I don't think we do have the time to cover a lot of that, particularly when you talk about, the rich and the poor, how wide the gap is. Certainly, would bring sorrow and uneasiness and family problems and so on. I think, we need to possibly have another time to fully look at how does that impact people's lives at a very extensive way, But yes, I see you talk about humility and love. And humility, you don't view yourself better than others. Could you just expand a little bit on love? I mean, how do you use that? Love could be, there's many connotations, it could be from a sexual perspective or another perspective, but purely talking about love in the true sense of caring. Could you just share one or 2 points before we move on?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I lost connectivity there. I missed all of the question, but only the part you said something about love.
Yes, okay. I think everything, sorry about that, you didn't catch it, but you spoke about humility, and humility is that you don't view yourself better than others,
Correct.
and I like that when we talk about the gap in terms of where we are living in this time in the world.
Yes.
It's not just here in South Africa, it's a global problem, and we need to find ways of addressing that. But how do you use love within the spiritual context of not looking at love for other, the body conscious kind of thing or the ego kind of thing, but how do you use love in your wanting to go forward in this 2021?
Well, yeah, that love is extremely, it's quite difficult to, as we all understand it in the sort of like the traditional form. But for me, love is it's a universal thing that is, if you want to try and incorporate it into your life in a holistic manner, in that you have to be extremely, extremely conscious of the impact that you are having on another individual, another animal, a part of the planet, whatever that is. And I just think that you've got to come at it from a thing of what you would. I'm not getting to the point that I'm trying to make it, but that is that love it's a cyclical thing where you have to give of your best and expect the best. And it can't be a selfish thing. I don't think that I'm expressing myself properly, but
that's fine. No, we get the message. But thank you, Bruce. Appreciate that for your time.
Yeah. Okay.
We're just going to move on because of time constraints. Yes, thanks a lot. Our next speaker, Michael Barton, who hails all the way from Nelspruit. He is, I think he didn't want me to tell you about how old he is, but he's 71 years old, and he's a researcher, and he has his own accounting practice. And he has been in the spiritual life for a few years now, and I'm so happy that he's going to share his conversation with us. And over to you, Michael Burton. Hello, Michael. Hello. Is Michael, Sister Indrani, is Michael with us?
Now come on. Right.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry, you missed my introduction with you, but it was very short because of time. But I did tell them you're from Nelspruit, but please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Just one correction. I'm not a researcher, I'm a searcher. Thank you.
Yes, that was wrong to me, but just be a researcher. Yeah. When you search, you become a researcher.
I joined the Brahma Kumari's Spiritual University in 2016. And although I gained a lot of knowledge, and are we still on? Okay. I gained a lot of knowledge. I found that all the knowledge was just in my head. I could talk lots about it. I could say things about it. But what I really wanted was to take that knowledge and make it real and bring it from my head to my heart. And I had to do a very deep search in 2020. And I discovered that I had to really deal with my ego, because what happens is when I'm finally rid of my ego, I can become love. Becoming love itself, you create unity and heal the illusion of separateness. But so I went into deep meditation, because I was always trying to justify myself, arguing about things and so on. And one night I got into meditation and I got this message. It was like just a download that came to me. Don't worry about the ego, just plant seeds of humility. And I thought, wow, this is great. So I started planting. And I was very happy with that. Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry, some there and here we're not picking up, but just please go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, I must just plant seeds of humility. And when I did that, I apologized to everybody. I then was very happy with myself. In fact, too happy. And the ego came back from the back door. I had to go through some very deep experiences of pain. And every time was coming to an end. And I fortunately had learned what to do. I surrendered to the pain, and I asked the pain, what are you coming to teach me? And both times the answer was the same. I've come to teach you humility. So thankfully, I got to a point where I started understanding that I am a beautiful soul created in the image and likeness of God. And I do not have to justify anything I do. Can be free of everything, of all the questions that I had about justifying myself. And the one strong message that came through was, humility is the key to the beauty that lies deep within every soul. I no longer sought for acceptance. And when I moved from my head to my heart, because I had gotten rid of the ego is always in my mind. It tells me I'm superior, or it tells me that I'm better than somebody, or I have knowledge or whatever. The moment I took that out, I went to the heart, I was able to live the virtues and no longer just know about them, and no longer talk about them, but I could live them. And my life became very, very easy. I was easy. Nobody can disturb me. No matter what you say to me, I'm quite happy. I do not find it painful in any way. Unfortunately, humility is seen as a weakness by most people, but I see humility as a super strength, because it's only in humility that I'm going to find true freedom. True freedom, the freedom to love everybody exactly. For example, I had given people a sticker said, I'm free to love and accept you as you are. But now I can actually live that experience. I'm free. I do not have to correct anybody. I do not have to tell anybody what they need to do. And this has been the experience of moving from the head to the heart, moving from ego to humility. And I don't know how much time I've got left, but I'd like to just give you a few ideas that help me to come to humility. As I said, it's a rough journey, but it's worth diamonds. Watching the thoughts and becoming aware of negativity, listening without formulating expenses, awareness of fixed ideas. I just like to quote Talopa, have a mind that is open to everything and attached to nothing. Some very young child once told me, there are no bad people in this world, only people who have had bad experiences. And we need to develop compassion so that we understand that what people are doing is not an attack on me. It's got nothing to do with me. They are going through their own problems. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. No, you're a very good timekeeper, knowing that we have, look, you've given us a lot to think about. But, you know, I think where you've ended, you said, where there's humility, there cannot be conflict. How do you manage?
I didn't get there yet, yeah. But
Yes.
it's still part of the talk, yeah?
Yeah, I was just reading about that, which is part of your thing when you've given it to us. But yeah, and you talk about you talk about being negativity and honesty. You know, just talk us a bit about those two aspects.
Right.
How do we bring it?
I got to start watching myself. And whenever there's any negativity in my mind towards anybody else, I need to become aware of it. And I got to be very honest with that. In other words, anything that comes up of negativity, I need to say, wait, hold on. I am now looking at somebody in a negative light. And I cannot do that because I need to know that, and I know already that everybody is a beautiful soul. But I'm saying this is when I really need to understand and to build up that humility. And where there's humility, there's no conflict. This is an amazing statement. I actually picked this up from the Brahmakumaris, and I meditated for a long time on this. And I found that with humility, there will be no conflict, because no matter what happens, I am in the position to ask for forgiveness, to forgive. And so nobody can do any harm to me anymore, because I'm free to love exactly as you are.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Thank you for that, and thank you for your time and, you know, sharing your experiences with us. So we move on now, and would like to invite John Ndiritu. Just a little bit about him. He is an associate professor at Wits University in the Faculty of Engineering, but he has taken to, obviously the whole world's actually at war at the moment about water, and he specializes in the engineering of water within its holistic view. And I think he could share some of that at a later point. But for now, time constraints. John Ndiritu, would you share your experiences with us about what has happened in 2020 for you, and what can we look forward to seeing how we can address some of those issues that you faced? Maybe there are similar ones that we've crossed our paths with. Over to you, John.
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll just first give a bit of background and then talk a bit about 2020, because 2020 was in so many ways for me similar to the previous years. So things happened in 2020, they're still happening now, but my journey through my journey in meditation, which is 28 years long, brought quite a lot of stability in the way I view things, the way I understand things, including the things that, some of the things that Bruce was referring to. So, there's this leading researcher on power and based at Harvard. And he says power is the ability to influence others so that I can achieve what I want. And if I do this in a manner that is persuasive, which means I get someone to like what I want them to do so that I achieve something, then that is termed as soft power. And if I use coercion, I use violence, I use money in an unfair manner, an unfair way to achieve that, then that is termed as hard power. And this particular person also says that we need a combination of both. He says that is smart power, a bit of soft power, a bit of hard power. But my understanding is that hard power is what may have created the state of the world that Bruce was talking about. And I remember in 1989, in 1989, Time magazine didn't have Person of the Year. They usually have this thing of Person of the Year at the end of the year. That time they had the Planet of the Year, and they were talking about all the destruction happening, all the deforestation happening, and all of that. I was feeling so stressed about that. I don't think that is the use of hard power, collectively, individually. And soft power, the way I understand it now, is that ability for me to remain content, to remain stable, to remain at peace, to remain happy, and to remain free internally in my mind, so that my mind is not stressed, my mind is free from bondage, irrespective of what is happening out. And internally, if I connect with those qualities that you're talking about, the love, the peace, the innocence, and the power, and I'm able to live my life from inside out, in connection with all that, then I'm powerful. And that is the best way to create influence outside, because as Bruce said, the best way for me to create a change outside is to be that change. And I just need to start inside and connect with that entity that I am, that powerful, it could be very subtle entity that I am. And when I'm living my life that way, then I'm influencing everything else, influencing my life, influencing the world in a better way. And I think that's what we need to move on. So 2020 was in a way similar to the other years. The challenges were a bit similar. So for instance, in my life as an academic, I manage research projects, and sometimes there's lots of pressure from the ones who are funding. If there are delays, they may not be able to understand why are these delays happening. Sometimes they communicate in a manner that implies I shouldn't feel so good about myself. But this inner ability that I have acquired through the years helps me a lot to say, okay, I don't know where you're coming from. You are free to do what you want, to say what you want. But my part is to communicate peacefully, remain content, but at the same time, find out, could I have done things differently anyway? Because there could be things I could improve upon. But as that happens, I don't need to be stressed about it and about what's happening. So I think I'll stop there for now, and we can carry on. Thank you.
Thanks, Professor Ndiritu. I always wanted to say that, to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you something that, Bruce had earlier on spoken about how the gap between the rich and poor and the exclusion of people. And you've also talked about how in your experiences that, you were obviously put under pressure in certain ways because of gender and cultural beings and so forth. And you said to me that you just ignored it. And to do that, I mean, you sort of need help. And I was just thinking about your innate qualities that would have to be so strong when you talk about how to tolerate, how to accommodate, how to respect, how to love, the humility you show. Can you just give me a few lines of how you dealt with those difficult situations? And knowing that, I should have earlier said this, that you have been meditating for 28 years. So your profound experiences and what you share with us, we would definitely dearly take with us when we are faced with those similar kind of situations or problems that we are faced.
Yes, I think, I mean, I don't consider those challenges to be very major challenges, probably as a result of my long journey in meditation and the consistency in that. And I have this understanding that you may not like what someone is doing, but it's very easy to like that being. As Michael said, you know, people have had bad experiences, and that is why they do some of the things that they do. So when that understanding is there, and at the same time, I have accumulated this energy of silence, because when one meditates, one accumulates this energy to be silent. There is like a buffer around you that creates a space where you can, things could be happening, but you'll be silent and you have time to like assess without reacting. So that's an ability that comes. But then after that, what happens is that, okay, I need to assess, see what happens. So if someone is profiling me racially, do I ignore this or do I do something? And what's the idea behind it? What do I want to achieve? Of course, so depending on what's happening and who is doing it and how they are doing it, sometimes I feel, okay, you know, just ignore this. That's the best thing to do. And don't get anyone thinking you have some buttons for them to push in a time. But still have this awareness that, okay, I will deal with you very respectfully. When you meet next time, I'll assume this never happened. And other times, it may be such that I need to face that situation because it's causing damage. It's likely to cause damage. So then I need to confront, I need to do something. But how do I do it? I need to do that patiently and wait for the right moment, wait for the right time, and then try to do this as effectively as I can so that, you know, not too many ripples are caused, not lots of you know, damage and lots of other things happen. So I have used a combination of all those. I mean, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but you know, it's a process, and I'm reasonably satisfied with how I handle those situations. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Professor Ndiritu. That was certainly, I would be taking a few things of how to practice when I'm faced in some difficult situations. But just to give you some time now, we have 15 minutes left. But I just want so that the entire panel we could just have a conversation regarding some of the things. So if we can all just look at each other and, you know, share why we look at each other, of the various points that I would like to raise. One of them are that ego seemed to be across the presentations of everybody sort of alluded to that, and how difficult ego is and what their ego could mean in many different things. So anyone on the panel, let's just come in and share your view of how we could, you know, use what you share with us, that we can avoid having this ego, big head, as we, you know, refer to it, and how do we practice to get away from it, you know, with the background of understanding about the 7 virtues and the 8 powers that we spoke about earlier on. If we could just use that, and feel free, anyone from the panel can respond.
What I found is the ego forced me to live in my head, and I saw everybody as different. I saw everything as less or more. I was judgmental. And when I was able to move from my head to my heart, I was then living the virtue.
Sorry, we don't know what happened there. Michael?
Did you hear anything I said?
Please repeat it.
I said, when we're living in our heads, then we become judgmental. For example, a knowledge that we have it stays in our heads and it doesn't become part of us. But when we move to the heart, we become all the virtue. And it's to recognize that the ego is what is blocking me, because it's allowing me to live in the head and not go to the heart, and not to be that person who has those virtues, because I'll know about the virtues, but I won't live them if I'm in an ego state. But one of the things that I need to do is to be aware that I do have a problem with the ego. And then there's a few things that we can do, like become aware of my fixed ideas. You know, as Talopa says, have a mind that is open to everything and attached to nothing. We learn from the most unlikely sources. And as I said, the words that there are no bad people in this world, only people who have had bad experiences, came from a little girl. But because I was in the situation of being able to listen to everybody, I could take this in and practice it.
Anybody else on the panel would want to extend?
Yes.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
Prof.
Yes, ego. Ego is quite illogical in a sense, because every single individual is so much dependent on so many things on what others are doing. I mean, even having Zoom here, there are so many people who are enabling this to happen. So, I mean, how can I feel self-important? There's no logical basis for that. But somehow we have all been impacted by that in one way or another, which is quite interesting, which I think is a reflection of the loss of power that, the soul experiences through time. You stop understanding things in the right way. So you end up, being quite illogical. And I mean, that's how I see it. And ego is also what prevents me from experiencing the beauty of life. Because, the human soul, every single individual is such a wonderful being if you look at it in a certain way. And if you also experience yourself in that way, which meditation helps one to experience. So, but if ego is there, it prevents one from enjoying life and from, having a content, happy life. Thanks.
Totally agree.
Thank you, Prof. Yes, Bruce, come in.
Yeah, if I can, just for, and again, from a different perspective, but I totally agree with the fact that what John said now. And that is that the ego prevents you really from enjoying life. I mean, when you go inward, and the thing that I think is so important is that realizing that every single thing is interconnected. We are all interconnected at a soul level. And yeah, if you take the fact that we're just souls, and you take that outward materialistic thing out of the picture, if we could do that would, we would be living a totally, totally different existence. That's my view.
Yeah, if I could come in there. The way I viewed ego is similar to how Brother John and Brother Bruce have said it. it's the ego, which is something that I am not, and that's how we all sort of recognize what our own ego is. So I feel like we all play different roles, you know, like the John's a professor, Michael's an accountant, Bruce is an entrepreneur, but you don't find they don't go home and start teaching accounting to their kids and to their families, you know. So they separate the roles. And I think when we understand what the role of the soul is, which is to be peaceful, to be loving, to be kind, blissful, happy, and we go back to those original qualities, I think that's where the ego is not in play anymore. But when I think that I am the role, or I am a student and I keep on playing according to that role, and then when in another space, still trying to play that role in a different space, I think that's where the ego conflicts with other people and also conflicts with ourselves, and then we become unhappy because we're playing the wrong role in the wrong scene, if I can say it like that. So I think if we keep the scene and the role together, I think the ego gets smaller and smaller, because if we keep the role and the scene together, then we'll be acting from our original qualities, which is to be happy, to be peaceful, to be blissful. And I think that's how we sort of tackle our own egos that we have, is just playing the role according to how we're supposed to play it.
Thank you, panelists. That was really getting the point across. But could we just possibly touch about, you know, all this sort of happening? How do we cooperate in various situations? How do we cooperate within ourselves when we are meditating or when we are at peace, you know, cooperating with yourself and others? Could you just expand on that a little bit, please? Anyone, pick it up. You need to unmute, Michael. Michael.
Yeah, thank you. We come to that when we understand that everybody is a beautiful soul created in the image and likeness of God. When I see no more division between myself and others, I'm able to cooperate. It's easy for me to cooperate because I'm not competing with anybody anymore. I don't compete. And, you know, our history, unfortunately, has always been a history of us and them. And this has not been very helpful in bringing about cooperation, because we've always seen in many situations that us is always right and them is always wrong. So that has been our history. And but unfortunately, when we don't see others as beautiful souls, we find it very difficult to cooperate.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Prof. Ndiritu, can you just speak up with how to pack up, to judge or not to judge? How do we bring that within our lives, our daily lives, and so forth? Just pick it up, and let's see. We are running out of time, so quickly, so we can get some other views on it.
I think the same thing. To judge, to judge, I think, is the ability to recognize what is real and then act upon that. And I think it's just that clarity of being that inner being that is whose nature is to be okay, to be peaceful, to be happy, and applying that in a very open way. Then you'll be able to assess things in the right way. And I think that's what the part to judge is about. Yeah, but there are so many influences that come in between.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Prof. Bruce, would you want to share anything regarding to judge and cooperate? It looks like we lost Bruce, but panelists, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate your time that you afforded us and sharing all your wise words and experiences. We are obviously nearing the end, and Professor Ndiritu is going to lead us into meditation, and he's going to have commentary. So I would just ask everybody just to take, sit back, relax, and enjoy this commentary and meditation by Prof. Ndiritu.
So should
Thank
I
you.
explain a bit? Should I talk a bit about meditation for a few minutes?
Yes, you could. Yes.
So yes, to meditate is actually very easy. It's a very natural thing. And everyone meditates because everyone thinks. To meditate means to think. But now the question is, what are you thinking about? And what are the impacts of what you're thinking about? And now we are saying that instead of thinking about all the things out there, which is what we are used to, turn your mind within and come to that beautiful being that Keshlin was talking about, blissful, peaceful, joyful, happy, wonderful. And just spend a few minutes there, grinding yourself into that. You could be anywhere. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to stop what you're doing. Just absorb yourself into that experience. And that's meditation. Natural, easy. So we can experience a bit of that.
Sister Nirani, can we have some music, please?
So take a deep breath and sit comfortably on your chair with both your legs on the ground and relax completely. Take a deep breath in and out and feel your body is relaxed completely. So it's time to take this journey inwards, to focus on that inner reality of myself, to that inner being that I am. So I let my mind focus in the center of the forehead, between the eyes. That is the seat of I, the inner being. I just let my mind gently focus on that silent inner being. And I create a thought, a simple thought. I am a peaceful being. I am a being of peace. I just hold this thought gently, not forcing it, very gently. I am a peaceful soul, so silent, so wonderful. I am this inner living being, the soul. And this peace within is always here with me. I can't lose it. I can't exhaust it. I can always stay here whenever I want, be here and experience this silent, peaceful reality. And I now let this energy of peace gently spread throughout my being, throughout this physical entity around me. This peace all around. Nothing but peace and silence. And I gently bring my awareness back to my outer reality, feeling so peaceful, feeling so content, feeling so joyful. Happy to carry on with the rest of my day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Thank you to the panelists for your time and your interaction. Also want to thank all the audience out there who has taken time also to share this wonderful evening with us. And we look forward to you joining us in other activities. But just to inform you that we also have recently created a chat room for meditation, and you're welcome to just get onto the website, and more details you will be able to find to guide you to the chat room for meditation. So thank you, everybody. And I see we have a chat. I know people have been just thanking us for all the wonderful things. We haven't had a question from the audience, but the messages are coming in fast and furious. So guys, let me just tell you that you've done well. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Thank you. Om Shanti. There will be a song now.
Okay.
Shanti.
Everybody wants, every one of us needs. I got wings on my back, and I'm ready to leave. There is love in my heart that will help me to start my journey to within. With faith I must begin. Everybody wants, every one of us needs. I got wings on my back, and I'm ready to leave. Part of my soul wants to race through the skies to get what I want, to reach what I need. My troubles are small. I reach the